Today's episode is sponsored by our friends at Famous Faces and Funnies. Check out their Whatnot app auctions as well as their Facebook Live auctions, as well as our friends at Ian's Display Accessories, the best figure stands for modern and vintage action figures, shipping nationwide. Alrighty, welcome to another episode of Codename New to Vero 2. I know we just uploaded the Thundercats comic book review, but here's something else we haven't done in a very long time, and that's looking at an action figure. And, my regulars know I've said this so many times. I am done with Star Wars, but like a drug, it just brings you right back. But the thing is this is like, yeah, you may feel one thing about, I guess they call it sequel trilogies and how terrible they are. But the point is like our Star Wars or my Star Wars, your Star Wars, the Gen X era Star Wars will always be encapsulated in 1977, 1981, and 1983. Nobody can take that away from you. No matter what they do to it, you always have that initial foundation to go home to. And I know when people watch the Disney Plus, they totally destroyed it from the original thing. And there's pros and cons. I'm not going to be one of those. But there's also fans that have despecialized, kind of like using the Laserdisc or the VHS one and kind of cleaned it up to where they've restored the original theatrical releases of those three iconic movies. So you could always go back and watch them again. But every now and then, I know we look at a Black Series figure, and I'm kind of like, compared to G.I. Joe, my Black Series is very limited. It's always like the female characters. I've always liked, Ahsoka, Saj Ventress, those types of they're kind of unique. But with this one, I've passed on it so many times. But then when you pick up and look at it, that initial feeling that you felt when Darth Vader comes through that cloud of smoke and that music hits, that feeling when everything changed. That's the moment I think all of us can attest where everything changed in our lives. Like that, wow, being bad is cool. So looking at this figure, that's kind of that feeling that I got. And so, I had no choice, being that I was marked down a lot as well. But it's kind of sad too that all of these are on clearance, like, they're not doing well. Such a wonderful franchise has been relegated to mostly landfill. I mean, all the plastic that they could melt down for all these action figures that are collecting dust probably could be used for recycling or something like that. So I hope they do that actually. But anyway, I decided let's take a look at this one. This is the Darth Vader from A New Hope, or as Gen Xers will say, just Star Wars. This New Hope, all this other stuff. But anyway, so this is Darth Vader from Star Wars, and we all know that from Star Wars to Empire, things kind of changed with his outfit. So I kind of wanted this one because it harkens back, like I said, to that initial feeling of seeing the character. And when you take a look at it, these Black Series are kind of not doing too good. I mean, we looked at that. What's his name? Marak from Ahsoka, which was like for some reason so widely sought out for it and was like commanding like $50 plus on the secondary market. Um, but then the main character, Ahsoka, you could find plenty of them on the clearance shelf. So it's kind of like weird in that sense. But anyway, modern Star Wars fans are a funny bunch as it is. So anyway, let's take a look at this. And again, this is the style that Star Wars Black Series is going through. I love the artwork back here on the side. That is just phenomenal. I think, when you take a minute and look at that, the detail, the colors that they used, it's like it's stenciled, kind of like, with the. All right, so let's open this, and again, my regulars will know we'll break out the old trusty Craftsman lock blade. And here's a question to all of you guys out there: do you still buy Craftsman now that it's no longer with Sears and Lowe's? What are your thoughts on the Lowe's version of Craftsman? Is it still quality like it was back in the day, or can you feel a difference or what have you? I mean, I got a riding mower from Lowe's that was Craftsman, but that was basically like they used that platform. They just put the Craftsman logo. But man, I love this lock blade. You could just see the quality, and it's. I mean, for all my adult life, this thing has been a trusty ally. So let's crack this open, and hey, let me know your thoughts on Craftsman. Alrighty, so here is Lord Vader out of the box, and wow, once again, this is pretty cool. It is good looking. It is an excellent 6-inch Black Series figure. That's the thing is, as a fan, this one hits the mark. I think this is very well done. The detail, the sculpting, everything, the cape is cloth. Um, you know, this is a huge improvement. It is worth getting. Now, if you're one of those people for investment purposes, no. I mean, that's not what this is about. And it never should be. So, um, they made so many of these. So many of these are sitting on the shelves. Is that good? Is that bad? That Star Wars has now been regulated to being a peg warmer. I mean, that's the big question. I mean, for us Gen Xers, yeah, this is an excellent pickup. I highly recommend getting this figure and adding it to your collection. I think I don't know why, but I've held out so long picking up a Black Series Darth Vader because none of them really just spoke to me like this one did. And I guess that's the bottom line, is that I finally found something that I like and was worthy. If I'm going to get one, I'm going to get one that I'm going to enjoy. I love the helmet, how nice and shiny that is. It's very nicely done. The 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 his instrument box, everything, even from the belt buckle to the side boxes next to him. Um, you could see even like the creases in his pants, his boots, everything is 9-10 on this thing. Behind the cape, like just the amount of detailing of this is fantastic. So just for fun, we got to fill in some airtime. So here we have him with his trooper. Now, he probably would have had the clone troopers just before um, Rogue One hit, because we're watching on the Bad Batch and stuff. There were still some clones in the Imperial Army. I mean, they were getting rid of them, but that's another thing. The Bad Batch is actually not too bad. I think that's another series. And I think recently for May the 4th, they released these shorts that kind of talks about Barriss, who was the Padawan who turned to the dark side and kind of framed Ahsoka. What happened to her? Like, she became one of those inquisitors, and you know, just watch it. I think that was actually well done. And I know a lot of fans are kind of like biting their lip when about this new Acolyte series, but you know, I guess they're trying to add their own lure beside the Skywalker saga. So, we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, here is the two Sith lords, Darth Revan and Darth Vader. You can see my Darth Revan is a little dusty. He needs to be cleaned up, but I kind of like that. It actually adds to him a little bit, the dust from being displayed. So that looks pretty cool. And then, of course, you could play out the iconic scene in Star Wars Rebels when Ahsoka finally comes to realize who Darth Vader is, and that is in fact Anakin. And just the emotional trauma, that is another good thing with modern Disney Star Wars. I like that. I think to show that the person you look up to and love like a father and brother is this evil, and now this evil doesn't look at you like will kill you without hesitation. And and the fact that you may be responsible for this, I think that's where the Rebels and this Ahsoka series is. If you understand those two things, I think it makes the series a little bit more palatable. Let's put it that way. It's not good or great, but it's palatable. So I always like that dynamic of Luke did what Ahsoka could never do. As much as he looked at her as his sister, as his responsibility, and she just couldn't do what Luke ultimately did, and I think that speaks volumes. And of course, since we're speaking, even though this never happened, except in the comics, which is another thing. Try reading those Star Wars comics. I think um, depends on how you read them, like maybe an alternative version or something like we did with the books. They're kind of entertaining. They're just, again, too many of them. I think that's a big drawback. There's everyone gets a fucking series, and you're kind of you can't just pick up. I mean, that's the big problem with this, is they oversaturate everything. Now they're doing it with the comics. Like if they stuck with one comic and one line and one continuity instead of all these 100 different side stories, it would be worthwhile. But you can't do that. I mean, and I think even and I'm putting on my business hat now, you would have more sales and more demand. The simple demand supply curve would hold true if they just centralize and focused in on one book, instead of make one for Mace, make one for Darth Maul, make one for Old, and then one is on Dark Horse, and then Marvel has. I mean, what the hell's going on? Old Republic, New Republic. They need to either have one or two books and then stick with it, and I think that would make the so much better. Even though they're good, they're decent, but it's all over the place. You can't follow. And there is Dad Vader with the two kids. I think that's pretty cool. So I think he fits amazing. I don't mean to go off on a tangent here because we're just looking at the figure, but I think this is a phenomenal Black Series Darth Vader, the one to get out of all of them. I think getting the New Hope and the amount of detail and how it looks, how it presents, really does fit the bill. I think it crosses uh, all the things that we're looking for. Anyway, this is Shabu Are You. Thanks. And I'm glad to be back doing content. And I appreciate you guys who have been waiting patiently to get my shit together and start doing it. But it's hot as hell outside. So I figured I'd knock out a few videos for your entertainment. Whoop, don't fall, Leia. Anyway, this is Shabu Are You, signing off.